All right. All right. All right. First and foremost, man, we're gonna say Shalom, and we're gonna give all praises, glory, and honor, which is due unto Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Bahasham,
Ba'asham,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahushai,
Bahasham,
Ba'asham,
Rakadash.
Ba'asham.
All right. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and others, a great Muslim rule well, and lead the flock by example. And Shalom to the sincere, followers of the faith, the brethren out there. Shalom to the elect. Okay, the elect of Yahweh Shai. Today's lesson, Lord willing, we're going to go a little bit into Revelation 17 and 16 and just kind of get some examples of how the relationship between, I just covered the last 30 years, so from 1996 to 2026, but it does go before that as well. But pretty much how the Lord has had it where the relationship between the US and its so-called European allies has deteriorated more and more over time and is continuing to do so. And, that's a prophecy fulfillment in Revelation 17 and 16, which we're going to read. Essentially, that's going to lead to them going to be, they're going to also be, nuking America too, sending missiles over there, part of America's destruction. So, yeah, bro. All right, so I'm going to read the first scripture. So Revelation chapter 17 and 16. And if we can hold whose look was more stout than his fellows as well, Babu Shah, and any other precepts that come to mind. Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Okay, now the beast that it's talking about is EU NATO. Okay, it's this modern power structure that Esau has, right? And the whore it's talking about is America. Okay, so when it says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, the way that they're going to take America out, okay, the burning of the fire, as it says in Isaiah 9 and 5, all right, World War III is going to be by way of nuclear missiles, okay, intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's part of how the Lord is bringing fire, along with the lasers from the chariots of the Lord. Okay, so when you read that, you see you got this they're allies, right? So when you read that, you might first read that and think, well, how, how's that gonna? But the more and more as prophecies unfolding, we're seeing, as you had the recent thing, which is in the list, you had the recent thing with France and UK, US, and Australia coming and taking away their deal. Okay, basically France getting snubbed, and France is one of the big allies over here in Europe. Okay, and another thing about France is, just like the UK, they've got their own nuclear arsenal with submarines, intercontinental ballistic missiles, right? So, we're going to go a little bit into that, and a little bit into America, man. And another scripture that comes to mind is also with Russia, as a side note, in Isaiah 13, where deals are going to be trying made, gold and silver, and America's going to get snubbed. Ultimately, this is going to end with America having no one, man. Okay, okay. Israel's going to get hit. Israel's doing the bidding of America in the Middle East, and also really, they have control, and America's going to get hit. America's going to get hit the worst. Okay.
Quick precept, bro.
Go ahead.
This is Psalms chapter 75, from verse 7, straight to the point. Right? It says, but Yahweh is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll go into it.
So it's the Most High. Remember, the scriptures tell us in Daniel 7 and 4 and 17, the spirit, it even popped up on the screen as a precept there. Yeah, that's right. Through that precepts, we get understanding, right? Scripture says that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. That he setteth up one and putteth down another, and setteth up over it the basis of men, loosely paraphrasing. The Most High, a lot of people don't seem to realize that, Esau, yeah, he might have his Annuit Coeptus or Novus Ordo Seclorum on the back of his dollar bill. He might have his plans, but he doesn't seem to realize that his plans are with all the, are with all within interwoven within the grand scheme of things, the plans of the Most High. You know, like the Babylonians, they thought they were going to continue going on. That's why they were feasting. You know, that's why they had their lords around, their concubines, and they were, you know, drinking out of the vessels stolen from Jerusalem. You know, and then the handwriting came on the wall, and then they realized, oh shit. Then they you know, they needed Daniel, man, to interpret, you know, interpret the handwriting that was on the wall, and pretty much it came out that they've been found wanting. That was a surgical strike. And you had Darius the Mede come up in there, and you had the Persians, you know. But the point I'm making is, you know, transferal of rulership on the face of the earth. It's the Most High that sets up one, and it's the Most High that puts one down, you know. So right now we're in the semi-quincentennial, you know, um, since the establishment of the Illuminati and the declaration of America's independence, you know, but it's coming to an end. You know, the average lifespan of an empire is 250 years. So, you know, Esau, you know, he's going down basically. And it's vanity to believe that his kingdom is going to continue forever, you know? That's just the point that I wanted to make,
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
because, you know, you're speaking about the allies of America turning on them, you know, it's the Most High that's causing these infightings,
That's right.
you know?
I have a precept.
Mm.
This is Job chapter 5, verse 12. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. And you mentioned Anuit Coeptus. Okay. And when you mentioned that, I was thinking about how, you know, the Lord's basically got America in a trick bag, man. Okay. Here it is, you know, you got Trump, you know, walking around Mr. Big Boots, you know, so cool, you know, which we all know it's all theatrical, right? We know the elites have a hand in everything, but pretty much he's making some bold moves, man. He doesn't get, and he don't care who he annoys, who he pisses off. Okay, and that's meant to be that's the current king of Babylon. That's the, you know, the president, man. Okay, and hey, all that's happening is it's like the brother said, the Lord is actually having these things happen to fulfill this prophecy, because it says in Isaiah, what's that, 55? Let me get that actually.
I got it for you.
Can't the one.
Isaiah 55 and 11, is it?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
so shall my word be. Right? Isaiah 55 and 11. It says, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it.
Yeah, so on the surface, people look at it like, well, hold on a second, like, but you know, this, you know, the special relationship between the UK and the US, you know, Tony Blair, George Bush. I grew up just hearing that all the time. Okay, but now you're seeing that the prophecies of the Lord have to come to be fulfilled. Revelation 17 and 16 must be fulfilled. You know, and we're seeing these different steps that are making the relationship between these allies, so-called allies, better. Okay, and we can go into some of the examples on that chat GPT link, unless you brothers want to get any other presets quickly in before that.
Yeah, I'll grab one. Says Obadiah 1 and 7. All the men of that confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just as brothers are going into, right, this idea that you know, America's allies are going to turn on her. Right, it's not a matter of if or a maybe, but but it's factual. You know, it's prophecy.
Hey, what's interesting is I remember going into looking at prophecy. Right, I was having a conversation with my father years ago when I first come to truth, and I told him, well, you know, Turkey, because we're from Turkey, so I said, well, Turkey's going to side with Russia, you know. And he was like, and it was laughable because, especially back then as well, Turkey was pretty much seen as like the lapdog of America. You know, they were really intertwined, you know. And he was like, nah, I don't see it, you know, America. But I was like, nah, hey, I knew it because that's what the prophecy said. But then lo and behold, over time, what started happening? They started making deals with Russia. You know, the what was it, the S-400 deals, the defense missile systems. they downed the Russian planes and had to apologize because America didn't have their back, and all these different things that have been happening over time. Okay, the relationship between Turkey and Iran at the moment. Okay, and how that's rubbing up Trump's administration, and all these different things. But that's prophecy. It's in Ezekiel 38. That's one of the allies of Russia. So when it talks about the allies of of America turning against it, you can start looking at things that are happening. Scriptures say, watch as well as pray. We're watching what's happening and we're filtering it through the scriptures. We're saying, well, the prophecies are starting to make moves, especially as we're nearing the end.
Yeah, if I can say it like that, for me, right, I think about that event as well, right? Because I know exactly what you mean. Before, because I was always a prophecy, I was kind of like, yo, how is Turkey going to start siding with Russia? Because there was a period of time when that looked almost implausible, right? But then that happened, and it was like, wow, we literally witnessed and have since been witnessing, right, a prophecy unfolding before our eyes.
Yeah. And America, you got to remember as well, that's the main place, that's Babylon. So they're just going around snubbing people, thinking that they can just do anything they want. But you're pissing people off, You're making things harder for the nations around you that are so-called your so-called ally, with having wars in different places, like you have the Strait of Hormuz being closed. Okay, and everything that's had a backlash off of that in terms of trade and economy, and everyone that's having taken the brunt of that. What's happening in Ukraine? Suddenly pulling out of that, not having as much support for Europe, say basically leaving them on their own. That's having an impact on things. Can we get that list, bro, on ChatGPT and just go through a couple of them? Just give some examples. You don't have to read all of them. Just read whichever ones you think are like the main.
So the question was, I want a compiled list, preferably with video or article links, of every time America snubbed a European ally on anything in the last 30 years. Let's see. I'm just gonna read some, and then whilst like anyone's making a comment, I'll try to find others. So 1998 says Operation Desert Fox. The Clinton admin bombed Iraq after diplomacy failed. France opposed the strike and withdrew from the military operation. 2002 to 3 says Iraq War, France, Germany, and Belgium. It's probably the biggest transatlantic split since World War II. The Bush administration proceeded despite fierce opposition from France, Germany, and publicly criticized them old Europe.
I got a quick precept.
Okay.
This is Mark chapter 3 and verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. And all these disagreements and America ignoring different things that is said by its allies, that's all in fighting. That's all causing division. They're not completely and utterly connected. Okay. America being the spearhead, the whore that rides the beast. Okay, pulling its rein, seeing where it's going, and you know what? That's causing a division. Okay, every time that a decision is made, a global decision that's not fully agreed on by its allies, that's a division. And there's only a matter of time before that has an end, man. And the end, as we know, according to prophecy, is the absolute obliteration of America through nuclear fire. Yeah, go ahead, Art.
Yes, sir. So we've got the Libya aftermath, 2011. While France and Britain led intervention efforts, many Europeans later argued the US, quote, led from behind and disengaged during post-war stabilization, leaving Europe to manage much of the fallout.
And it's funny because Libya, not mistaken, is listed in Ezekiel 38. You had you have Iran, Persia, Ethiopia. You know. So hey, America's making a lot of enemies, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're making a lot of enemies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're not. And the thing is, they're not going to get away with it. That's the thing. You know, when you're a superpower, you're on top. You think that you're going to be able to get away with anything. Well, the Lord is already put hooks in the jaws of what? Russia. Okay, on the other side, it's just a matter of time before, you know, you got the BRICS nations. Okay, you got the economic attack, the economic squeeze. You got the military squeeze happening on different fronts. Okay, you saw what happened in Syria. Okay, when you remember videos, you had Russian tanks chasing after American tanks in Syria. So they're not going to be able to get away with it, man. You know. And by the way, America ain't going to be able to heal. They're not going to be able to continue being that bully on the earth, that hammer on the earth, man. Okay, and they're not going to be able to heal off of it as well, because war's a big way that what do they do? The war machine, they're making money off of it. Okay, but hey, there's a price to pay for that. You know.
Yeah.
Hey, quick precept, because you mentioned something the Pash about America not being able to be the hammer of the earth.
Can.
You know, in Isaiah 14 and Isaiah 14 verse 4, it says, "Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, How have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord Yahweh have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that
constantly at war." Hey, he said, "How has the oppressor ceased?"
Yeah.
Don't think that there ain't other nations in Europe, you know, other Edomites that are looking at, you know, the pride and they're just saying, you know, they're getting a certain amount of oppression too. You know, what did Trump say about Spain recently? Like they're basic. I can't remember exactly how it was, but it's like they're nothing. You know, they don't even count.
Yeah.
You know,
one of the pigs of Europe, huh?
Right. One of the pigs of Europe. Exactly. What was it? What were they?
There's Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain.
Yeah, that's it. You know, I think and Italy and Greece, it's funny because they're mentioned in the Kosovo air campaign in that list. Okay, and it said NATO intervened despite considerable disagreement among some European governments over strategy and escalation. So their voices weren't heard, man. you know, America. That's like remember that puppet show out with the Team America.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they're just coming in and doing what the hell they want. But the thing is, man, how has the oppressor ceased? That's why when America goes down, the nation's gonna look at it like, whoa, that's Babylon the Great. That's America. You know. Hey, go ahead, Salaka.
Yeah, no, it just says, "He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and quiet, and is quiet. They break forth into singing." You know, so when this devil is taken out of power, that's when the whole earth is gonna, be at rest again, man. You know, like the scripture says that the creature waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of creation is waiting for us, man. Really, to take rulership. It's like even when I was out in the suburbs doing some work, and I just see this Edomite man. She just found these hedge trimmers. She just picked them up and just started chomping down on some hedges for fun. And I'm like, I know it might sound strange, but I can actually hear the pain of the plant. And the thing is, I was working in the hot sun because we got this heat dome, heat wave, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm working, I'm sweating. Here it is, I'm working, I'm grafting, and I'm looking out, and I just see these Edomites living it up, man. You know, they're on summer holidays. They're taking their little big head utes out. You know what I mean? And they're just causing havoc. Little Pippers and Joffreys. You know what I mean? She took the hedge trimmers and she was just chomping away at it, and just for fun because she was bored. And I said, you know what? These are them little devils, man. You know what I mean? And it's just like that plant. It was almost like, man, yo, just let the plant live, man. Like at this point, it's just clear that you're doing it for fun. And this is what I'm saying, that the scripture says the wicked shall do wickedly. You know, and none of the wicked shall understand. Remember, his soul. We're in a time now where the earth is being ruled over by the wicked, and his soul that's lifted up in him is not upright in him, man. And you can see it all down to the average Joe the six pack. You can see it. They're just wrong, man. These Edomites, these are just devils, man. Even their little children, they're entitled. You know, they demand things from their parents. They get catered to. You know, that's why the scriptures speak about we shall have judgment without mercy that has shown no mercy, man. Because they haven't showed no mercy to us, to the earth. You know, they've polluted the whole earth. You know, Salah, you got it, bro.
That's right. Now I got a couple, because of what you said. I got a couple of precepts on that example you just gave about this woman, right? This is James chapter 5, verse 5. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. And I'm just going to get a precept to go with that. Psalm 73 and 5. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. You know, they're just going around doing what the hell they want. You know, wickedness, man. You know, no thought taken. You know, you said like this, you said their youths are entitled, and the scriptures say they'll be born speaking lies. You know?
Yeah.
That's you know, that's what you're gonna get with Esau, man. So his kingdom is crumbling. All right. These are like the telltale signs of him crumbling, man. You know? And Americans, they like, you know, they're kind of known as like wherever they go, it's like they look down on the European Edomite, you know. They're just loud and they're just brash, and you know, they make all these, you know, they might go to like a restaurant and just make all these orders, and you know, just expect to be treated a certain way because they're American. Even what's his name, man? Tate, wasn't he making tweets or something? He was saying, "I'm an American citizen. I ain't getting no tap. You know, my brown water's coming out my tap. I ain't drinking clean water. I'm an American citizen." But you're in jail, bro. You know, you know, it's time for you to go through what you're going through. Yeah, you're not gonna get all that. But he's saying I'm an American citizen, meaning, look, you know, I shouldn't be subjected to this. You know, which kind of shows you that America it's like Rome all over again. You know, being regarded with certain rights in the world. You know.
Meanwhile, you got Trump slapping on a 2028 hat, talking about he's trying to run for a fourth term. You know, putting on a MAGA hat, talking about 2028. Like this guy he's got no filter, man, and this is why we could really see him being the guy, you know, pushing this thing to the next level. Look at what's happened since he's taken office, man. Look at the state of the so-called Middle East. You know, and we got to keep an eye on that region over there because, like you said earlier, you know, we're the watchmen, so we got to, you know, keep an eye on the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat.
Yep.
You know, the valley of the Most High's judgment, man. Like these nations are being dragged into that. That's why you're getting Ukraine is getting involved. You know, the lapdog of Israel, which is America, they've been involved. You know, Iran ain't backing down. They're moving like the wild boars of the wood that they are. The Carmanians raging in wrath. You know, it doesn't matter if you take out Khomeini. It doesn't matter if you take out their supreme leader. They got others to spring up in their place. They're closing up the Straits of Hormuz. You know what I mean? The fertilizer shortage, the oil shortages, all of this stuff is happening, and people are just going on like it ain't happening. But you know, this is what I'm saying, and this is hurting America's allies. This is the point of the lesson. Like this is actually hurting America's allies. It's been hurting America's allies even since Ukraine and Russia.
That's right.
It's been hurting. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the European nations are not feeling it. You know.
Nope. We should probably get a couple more examples in it before we go into this. I'm holding some scriptures, but just because America's done a lot, man. Yeah, it's got to be exposed.
Yeah, so it's back in the article. It goes on to say so this is a big one actually. Withdrawal from Iran nuclear deal JCPOA. So Trump withdrew despite strong objections from 3 European signatories, undermining years of joint diplomacy.
Completely undermined the UK, France, and Germany, man. Some of his biggest European allies. You know, did what the hell he wants to do, withdraws from this deal, and you got this back and forth propaganda. Okay, but to be honest, look, man, Iran's already exposed you to the world, man. You know what I mean? You're not as powerful as you're making out to be. You know, and like the brother quoted about the wild boars, the Carmenians. That's part of prophecy too. That spirit that the Lord's got on Iran, on Iran, okay, and its military. That's part of the prophecy. So there's a certain spirit on them, you know. And they say that you look at their army. If you look at was it you, Raza? I think it was you, and you showed me an army. You showed me the U.S. forces, and it was all like LGBTQ, and then you showed me like the Iranian forces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The
Iranian forces, they just look like the Immortals from 300.
Yeah, it was when you look at the troops that in the first list of troops that they showed died from the Iran war, and they just looked through, man. It was like, yo, is this your army? Is this who's fighting for you?
Yeah. And you know what, man? Like all this extra pressure. Hey, Europe's already going through some shit right now. They got fires they're fighting, man. You got firefighters fighting. NASA saying that there's fire-breathing dragon clouds that they've never seen in the country before. You know what I mean? There's all kind of madness happening already. So it's funny because the Lord's got all this happening. You got all this chaos. You got economic chaos. You got the war. You got all this. You know, these so-called these snubs that America doing, going on reckless. It's all building up to like a boiling point. There's going to come a point where there has to be some kind of reaction to all this.
Yep.
You know.
Well, this and the JCPOA and the Nord Stream 2 sanctions hurt Europe. These two, I remember those two really hurt because with this one, you had European nations basically now starting to do deals with Iran and stuff like that. And then out of nowhere, Trump just came in and put an end to that. And then the Nord Stream 2, because remember, it literally came out at the end of it. I think it was like a Ukrainian man was supposedly found to have been the person to blow up Nord Stream 2, right? And then everyone just forgot about it, in quotes, right? Why was it forgotten? Because remember, immediately they pushed out the monkeypox, right? And literally it was in the news for like 1 or 2 days, and then monkeypox came back again, right? Just to get it out of the news cycle, right? But those two things hurt Germany to the point where you're looking at major German manufacturers doing mass layoffs.
Yeah. And look, this guy is just making these moves, and there's very little consultation, man, going on. Okay, like with the thing with Maduro, people they woke up one day, it was like that happened, you know. And there's a couple of examples. It says, like, for example, you got the 2019 Syria troop withdrawal, and you got the 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal, and both of them say that basically Trump just got out of there, hardly any influence at all by its allies. They don't know what was going on. They just got to deal with the backlash of that. You know, they got their own troops in there, and then America just pull out. You know, and then it says in, for example, in the Syria troop withdrawal, it says it enabled a Turkish offensive because you got the whole thing with the Kurds in Syria. You know, and Turkey's moving, you know, with Russia essentially. So there's all the, you know, you've just now left your so-called allies in an open situation against Turkey, which has a huge standing army as well. You know, it's not looking good for America, man. You know, this is meant to be some so-called reliable superpower ally. America don't give a shit. They don't care. You know, that's why Trump's always getting on Angela Merkel. He was always getting on European countries to up their defense. That was in his last term, to up their defense budgets. You know, basically stand on your own. We're tired of basically, you know, being big brother to you guys, looking after you guys. All right, cool. But like I said, everything has all these things, these decisions have a reaction to them, man. A consequence. That's it. You know, you got that the AUKUS one.
Yep,
that's a recent one.
Yep. So perhaps
go ahead.
Perhaps the clearest modern diplomatic snub. The US, UK, and Australia announced AUKUS, leading Australia to cancel a French submarine contract without advance consultation. France briefly recalled its ambassador to Washington.
To the point where an European allies recalling its ambassador, man. You know what I mean? That's how much how much of an issue that you actually cause, man. So, and these things aren't forgotten. Even going back to World War II, Japan ain't forgotten. Japan's a so-called American ally. Japan ain't forgotten about Pearl Harbor and Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You know, Germany ain't forgot about what's happened. France ain't forgetting about these things. They're not forgetting, man.
Yeah.
Yo, bro, I got something real quick just on that point, right?
Yeah.
About the nuclear submarine deal going south, right?
Yeah.
It says, why is France, I got this from edition CNN.com, right? It says, why is France so angry about the trilateral deal? It says France stands to lose the equivalent of $65 billion to the US. Sorry, $1 billion US dollars. It says, from an existing deal to provide Australia with conventional diesel-powered submarines. The cancelled deal with France, a major global weapons exporter, is expected to make significant economic impact on the French defense sector. France also stands to lose out strategically in the Indo-Pacific, where the country holds significant interests. On Thursday, after the nuclear-powered submarine deal with the US and the UK was announced, Australia formally announced it will be withdrawing from its previous contract for conventional submarines with France. This deal with Paris had been in the works for years. You know, so here comes the UK. I mean, the UK and the US, and pretty much France got left out, pretty much to dry.
Yeah.
You know, it's his foreign minister, Jean-Yves Le Drian, said he was angry and bitter about Australia's new submarine agreement. This isn't done between allies. See, listen to this. He said, this isn't done between allies.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? He said, this isn't done between allies. It is really a stab in the back, he added.
Yeah. Kingdom divided, man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the allies, man, you say America, like you said about whose look was more stout than his fellows. America don't give a damn, man. They don't give a damn about their allies, you know? And, you know, these Edomites are starting to see, you know, how America's moving. And they're openly declaring that this ain't done between allies. This is betrayal, basically. You know? And like you read earlier, a kingdom divided shall not be able to stand. So we're actually seeing a division in this man's kingdom. That's a sign of the times. You know, that's an indication to know that this man's kingdom is going down because his kingdom is actually divided. You know, it's breaking apart from within. And ultimately, the nuclear missiles from their allies are going to be shot on America. You know, you mentioned Isaiah 9:5 earlier, you know, about the ancient warfare, you know, in comparison. If I could just read it, Isaiah chapter 9 verse 5, it says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." And how's that going to come about? That's going to come about by thermonuclear destruction. You know, ancient warfare was fought with shield, sword, you know, buckler, you know, a spear, on horseback, cavalry, you name it. But this type of warfare is going to be with burning and fuel of fire. That's the nuclear destruction. Hey, the Apostle Peter spoke about it, looking for and hastening to the coming of the day of the Lord. You know, wherein the elements being on fire shall melt with fervent heat. Loosely paraphrasing, you know, the nuclear missiles is going to waste America, man. You know, so these nuclear missiles haven't been created just to sit there in them silos. They're going to be launched.
Yeah.
And that's really the Most High's army.
Yeah.
You know?
I got a precept. This Revelation chapter 13, verse 12. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Okay, and ultimately, you know, this is America is what Rome coming back again. You know, that deadly wound is healed, meaning what? Esau's coming back into the power. Okay, through that in the Renaissance period. It says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So one of the major examples of how that was done was what the bombs that were dropped on Japan. Okay, and then if you type in who dropped nukes on Japan, it says it. President Harry S. Truman ordered the use of atomic bombs, which were delivered by the United States military. Okay, so from like World War II, the whole world looked at that like, whoa, like, yo, America dropped these nuclear attacks, man. Everyone had to, sit back. That's in it goes into in Joel, when eventually these different nations started to build up their own nuclear arsenal, their own Manhattan projects, if you will. Okay, that's when it started to say what? Let the weak say I'm strong.
Yeah.
So now India has a say. Now, this country has a say, that country has a say. Why? Because they have nuclear capability. That's why. Why do you think the Trump administration and the administrations before that have always had an issue with Iran's uranium enrichment program? And if you look at these clips of Netanyahu, that devil, I watched this thing where it was like a compilation of clips, throughout different years, where he just kept saying Iran is weeks away from having nuclear technology, weeks away. It was always weeks away, and over the years, because Iran is a major foothold of Russia in the Middle East. Like the brother was saying, we got to watch what's happening over there in the Levant, the Valley of Jehoshaphat. So Iran's a major player in that, man. When Israel start making big moves in Iran, the scriptures say what? The least of the flock shall draw them out. Go ahead. You was gonna.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that, because and the thing is, Ezekiel 38 actually mentions Persia, as the first nation, to be guarded by Gog,
Right.
which is Russia. You know what I mean? And Persia, that's what, even Russia, the Russians, UK, it was always known, even on the ancient map, it was always known as Persia. It only got changed to Iran. I think you had a guy called Reza Shah in 1935. He changed it to Iran. But before that, it was always known as Persia. So when you're dealing with Persia, you're dealing with the fact that Gog, which is Russia, which is described as the chief prince in Ezekiel 38, Russia is actually a Hebrew word. Apostle Tahar went into that. Ra'ash Shah, right? Ra'ash, meaning chief or head, and Shah meaning prince. You know what I mean? The chief prince. So the chief prince is going to be a guard unto what? Persia. And that's why you're seeing that culmination of that battle happening over there in the so-called Middle East. Now, north of Iran, I want to say northwest, don't you have what? The Caspian Sea? You know what I mean? And all that region there. You know what I mean? Even north of that, northwest of that, you've got Russia as well. And Ukraine. That's why Ukraine's so close. Even Ukraine's being drawn into this war. Didn't they just strike an Iranian vessel?
Right.
Yeah.
That's why they're so. Look, man, this is chess. So we're starting to see all these nations being drawn into that region now. This is beautiful, man. Yeah, we ain't dealing with, this ain't like times of 1901 when they sent in William Knox and they gave him the rights to basically get oil, extract oil from, from Iran or Persia and funnel it into the birth of British petroleum. This ain't that time. Okay? Now is a time where everyone's got nukes. Like you said, Joel 3 and 9. Prepare war. We're in a time where it's a nuclear arms race now, if you will. Now everyone, look, who's going to push the button first? That's the time that we're in. Yeah. So this is a whole different ball game now, and it's predictive programming, because I believe in it. One Mission Impossible film, didn't they show you? They showed you the U.S. fighter jet striking Iranians' uranium enrichment program.
Oh, was that on Top Gun? Top Gun.
Oh, sorry, Top Gun. Was it Maverick?
Yeah, Maverick. Yeah.
Yeah, Top Gun, man. They showed you that in Top Gun. So that's predictive programming. They always put it in these movies, man. And they said, "Oh, it's an impossible flight. No one can do this." So they had to hire the Top Gun, to go in there and just blast up the thing and got out. But the thing is, the fact of the matter is, they've always been putting that, they're going to do that to Iran. They're going to do that to Iran. They're going to blow up their uranium enrichment, and they're going to pretty much call them the boogeyman. Because that Esau, he deals with auto abkeo. He deals with Hegelian dialectic. He deals with pressure from above, pressure from beneath. He introduces the chaos. Oh, we need to, like the war on terror, the 911 with the Osama and that, looking for a man in the caves and all of this. They love doing this shit, but that was a way for them to get more draconian measures.
Yeah.
So we look, man. We can't be ignorant of Satan's devices. You got it up.
I was just saying, we got on what you just said there. Is Ecclesiastes 3 and 8, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace, right? And we're in that time of war right now, man, as the brother's going into. right? Which actually should have read the first verse, which is to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven, right? So yeah, we're in that season of war, man.
That's right.
Yep. You know that the article I sent, yeah? Could you just go to that, Bob Shah, and just scroll down to where it says national? We just read the title and then scroll down to national security strategy and trade tariffs.
Yep. So it's a timeline of how the US and Europe have been at odds.
And there's many examples it gives: the Suez Crisis, Vietnam War, etc., etc. But the last two is the main I wanted to get.
National security. Okay. Which even on what you're saying, the fact that you were even able to just find this article shows exactly the direction things are heading in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Says national security strategy. The Trump admin set out a new national security. The Trump admin set out a new national security strategy last December that portrayed European allies as weak. It was scathing of their migration and free speech policies, suggested they faced the prospect of civilizational erasure, and cast doubt on their long-term reliability as American partners.
So here it is. He's calling out them for their long-term reliability, right? Saying that their civilization is going to get erased. All right. But the joke, the Lord has a sense of humor. The funny thing is, yeah, Edom is going to get taken out. All these different nations are going to get taken out. But America is going to be the main place of that example. America is going to be completely on fire. That's right. That ain't even going to happen to these other nations. We're going to be, putting down breaking up the concrete, destroying these buildings, putting them even into slavery, But America is actually going to be like that place on the earth that's going to be never inhabited. It's going to be looked at like, oh man, that's that. You don't mess with the Lord, man, and these people.
Yeah, and of like NATO and stuff. I remember the elder going into just how without American bases all over the world, America couldn't even extend its power like that. Right. The fact that, for instance, that's the whole thing. Was it Diego Garcia? If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's a UK military base. Is a remote coral atoll in the central Indian Ocean that housed a major UK-US military base, right? It's in the Chagos archipelago, right? Which that was just something that they were arguing about, right? But basically the point is that base there allows America to be able to come and basically, like a base for American military aircraft and stuff like that to fly from, right? Because if you're having to fly from America all the damn time, it ain't gonna work, right?
But they better be careful that Iran don't get tipped off where them locations of them bases are, because we know that Iran's getting tipped off by Russia and China, man, to hit strategic points. That's why apparently American soldiers are dying right now. Because Iran, they got them drones and they've been preparing for this war for years. Like Elder Apostle Tahar has been saying, they've been preparing for this war for years. They're fighting in the mountains and shit. They got drones that fly out of silos and shit, caves. they got the underground missiles stockpiled, man, ready to just launch on certain strategic points. So they pretty much look, and they're exhausting America's air defense missile systems. They're being completely depleted. So America's being made to look stupid, man. Yep. Basically like a paper tiger, tiger with no teeth. That's why we read Isaiah 14 earlier. How is the oppressor ceased? The golden seat is ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the rulers, the staff of the wicked. This man is done.
That's right. And even on what you're saying, this is something I couldn't find it in another article, but like I remember this was during the news the last couple of days, right? But basically, it was saying how Iranian attacks on CIA facilities. Basically, the US is investigating basically Russian tip-offs because some of these were certain CIA sites, and the CIA is like, "Yo, hang about, how do you know about this?"
KGB, brother.
Yeah, that's it.
It's beautiful, man. Beautiful. And Putin ain't no pussy, man. Excuse my French. I mean, Apostle Tahar was saying even the way he walks, like that KGB, because you mentioned KGB, and how he has his arm straight down to his side because basically he's ready to draw. He's ready to draw his firearm at any time. Like he's trained, man. You don't see Trump walking like that. You know what I mean?
Trump's an actor, man. He was in Home Alone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember watching that as a kid. I was watching Home Alone, and then you see Trump. You know, he's just in one of the scenes. He's just like, he's an actor, man. You know. Oh, Zelensky. There's another one. There's another one. These guys are just clowns, man. You know, Trump always says it anyway. He's a businessman. He's the Alan Sugar of America. You know, you got the Apprentice. You are fired. Come on, man. Putin. These guys are ex-KGB, man. Yeah, go ahead. That's like...
There's even a reason why even Zelensky, he was getting interviewed about how he's pushing that whole anti-Shem thing heavy in Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like, you get punished for anti-Shem over there in Ukraine. Zelensky's pushing that hard over there, you know? So that lets you know where their allegiances lie. You see, Israel, man, they just got... America's just basically the pit bull. You know what I mean? You know, Netanyahu, who points, go over here and go over there. And, you know, they pretty much carrying fair to this guy. You know? Because ultimately, man, this is about the elites at Esau. This is what they're doing behind the scenes. Right. They tell them what to do. You know? And, you know, pretty much America is just a lapdog, man. And that's why ultimately, look, with this whole greater Israel project over there in the so-called Middle East, it's coming to a head now, man. Yahweh Shai prophesied. He said, well, you shall hear wars and rumors of wars. It's right there. You know? We're at that time when the disciples asked him, with that, you know, what shall be the sign that I come in and of the end of the world? In Matthew 24, it says it. You shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. And we're actually at that time. Like you read earlier, Ratazar, there's a time for everything. A time for war and a time for peace. We're not in a time of peace. So that peace and safety spirit, dead that. You know? We're not in a time of peace and safety. We're not in a time of distractions, man. You know, we're in a time of locking in, you know, through the spirit. That's for the elect. But the rest of these people, the masses, which the word mass means death, these people are dead from the neck up anyway. They're finished.
That's right.
You know?
And you mentioned in the elites already know that America's a sacrifice, man. That's just a sacrifice, a cash cow that they're going to sacrifice. You know, they got their deep underground bunkers spread around the world in Europe and all that. It's just a matter of time. That their plan is to what? They're going to try and fight the Lord, and they're going to try and come up out these bunkers after all these nukes and all that drop. But, you know, as we know, according to the prophecy, we're going to be yanking them out and putting them into chains, you know, taking them out of those mountain bases, you know. Right. But America's just going to be set on fire, man. I had a precept. This is Daniel chapter 7, verse 20. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, which is talking about America. Right? That's who the horn's talking about. Whose look was more stout than his fellows. And when you're looking at word stout, what it means, it goes into being great. You know, being chief. So America, his look is more stout than his fellows. And you get examples in just even in the behavior, all this snubbing that it's doing. Do you remember that press conference with Trump when he was just like barging in front of people? You know, that just shows you, you know, the pride of the American Edomite, man. Okay, of that empire, America. I've spoke to a couple of people from America in the world. Obviously, not brothers, because brothers knows what it is. But like, the guys think that they're unstoppable, man.
Yeah.
They have this unstoppable thing about them, like, I can never, you know. And they also have this thing where it's like, why would you ever have to leave America? America's everything. You know, I don't need to see the world. I don't need to do that. And they look down on Europe, you know.
Or even Trump made derogatory remarks about Spain. You know, Spain won the World Cup, and Spain battered Argentina with the World Cup. But, you know, Trump, you know, pretty much 2 weeks prior to the finals, he made derogatory remarks about Spain. He called them a wasted country and a bad people. You know, even that, you know, like, you know, you got the World Cup, right? Even that. Now Trump's having to shake hands with the Spanish players.
Having to give the medals.
You know, give the medals
on the global
that,
stage.
Even that, you know, it's showing that America's losing on all fronts. Even when Biden was in power, man, he was just, you know, slipping on the fucking, not the runway, but up, you know, getting into the plane. Like what kind of like creepy sleepy Joe? Like it's America's been through, man.
Yeah, people were saying he had clones.
Yeah.
You know if it was the real Biden.
The real
'Cause the guy
Biden,
was,
please stand up.
yeah, the guy was practically dead, man. He was walking dead, man. That's your president, and the other choice is Kamala. Come on, man. Kamala Harris,
Yeah, we did it, Joe. We
Right.
did.
Right.
I got a preset, bro. If
Yeah.
I can. This is Isaiah 54:16. It says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy."
That's right.
Yep. And that's that nuclear missiles, man, that nuclear technology. The Lord has put it into the mind of these modern day scientists, you know what I mean, to come up with something as terrifying as a nuclear missile, man. And even the atom bomb was was hella terrifying. So let alone a nuke. And these warheads, when they hit America, remember that the impact is going to be so great. The whole earth is going to shake, and the whole world will see America on fire.
Right.
Don't the scriptures say that in Revelation 18 that these nations shall stand afar off for smoke of her burning, because they ain't going to make money. No man maketh their merchandise from her anymore. So that great whore is about to be burnt with fire, man. That's what the waste to destroy is all about. It's the nuclear missiles. So this is what we got to be prophesying. What we got to be talking about is the nuclear destruction, and we hope that we're right so that we can get off the earth at that time, because we're going to need to be taken. It's going to be so catastrophic. We're going to need to be taken off the earth.
That's right.
And then that's when Revelation 15:2. See, the prophecy of Revelation 15:2 comes into play for them that got the victory over the mark and of the beast and his image. Stand upon a sea of glass. Looking through the firmament, looking at America's demise, America's destruction, as we witness the besom of destruction, which is a sweeping agent, man. And I saw these wildfires over here in the EU. You be seeing them from bird's eye view. You be seeing it almost looks like it's like the Lord's giving you a prelude. It's like a besom of destruction. Like it just looks like you see these forest fires. It's like a line of fire. One part's charcoal, the other part's just all like brown and yellowish. Because of the heat wave. But then everything else is charcoal. You just see this wall of fire coming. That's what it made me think about, man. It's like the Lord is plaguing Egypt with plagues as before.
That's right.
So we're in that time, man. What we're seeing right now is labor pains, man. The scriptures speak about that in 2 Ezra 16.
Hey, if I can get a quick preset up, because something you said triggered it. Yeah, you said about you saw the fire. One side was charcoal, right?
Yeah.
Right. This is Joel chapter 2, verse 3. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth, which took going into the missiles. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them.
That's right.
Because America's if you look at America, it's got all these beautiful nature reserves and all that, So it says the Garden of Eden. Eden is like a paradise, right? So the Garden of Eden before them, but then when that flame goes on them, man, nothing but a desolate wilderness behind it. When you said that about the fire, it reminded me of that, because the ultimate fire that the Lord's bringing is through the chariots of the Lord, the lasers, and the nuclear warheads, man. Them ICBM nuclear missiles,
Yeah, when you look at man, before they, these Edomites, they colonized, America and that and whatever. Before they brought Jake through the Middle Passage, the transatlantic slave trade, yokes of iron, put us on auctioning blocks, man. You had the natives, they were in America just living it up, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? The beautiful landmass, the gold flowing in the rivers, all kinds of stuff, man.
Yeah.
America's a beautiful landmass.
Yeah.
Even King Solomon, didn't he used to send Hiram over there to the Americas to bring back things every 3 years?
Yeah.
So this is, America's a beautiful landmass, but then you see Esau, because of what he's done, the Lord is going to make that place the sacrifice in the land of Idumea. That's in Isaiah 34. And they even put that as a precept in the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary for the definition of Edom. So they know. They say it's a scene of great future judgments.
That's right.
The only neighbor of the Israelites not promised any mercy from the Most High. So Esau's finished, man. Esau is the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, man. So Esau, he can be proud all he wants, but ultimately, the Most High creating a divide between these Edomites is really according to his plan. That king, that divided kingdom, man, I'll keep thinking about that divided kingdom. A kingdom divided shall not be able to stand, just like you read earlier, bro.
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to get a quick preset, but before I do, can you read the last bit, bro? The trade tariffs on that article, Babu Shah.
Yep. So this trade tariffs is with relations between the US and Europe deteriorating. Trump threatened the continent last July with heavy trade tariffs in what was seen as a deeply hostile move. It says Trump initially announced tariffs of 30% on the 27-nation European Union, which is the biggest trade partner of the US. Both sides later agreed to a trade framework setting a 15% tariff on most goods.
Here it is. You got a cost of living. You got wars on each front. Yeah. And then this guy's putting tariffs on its own allies, man. Now, I thought it was funny because there's a precept in Isaiah 13, which I remember years ago, Bishop Zakaran, he broke down, and I just wanted to read it. Right, this is Isaiah 13 and 17. It says, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it." Going into the Medes are going into the Russians, And I remember Bishop Zakaran saying that basically it's going to get to a point where America might even try and make a deal with Russia, and Russia ain't going to take no deal, man. It's just going to end up nuking them, And I was thinking about, hey, Trump might be that guy. He's a businessman, right? He's trying to make deals and all that. He's putting tariffs on his own allies. It's about the dollar. Even when what did he say about Iraq? We should have took the oil. So this is the kind of character of a man that you're dealing with, being the king of Babylon. So all of this, because a lot of the world wars, what did they start through? Economic wars. There was a lot of economic things that were going around, and the economy is globally is really being affected by these different actions that Trump's taken. And we're not ignorant of what he's doing. He's in Venezuela using the oil there, affecting the oil price over there in the Hormuz, and it's all for his own gain. But who's losing out? His European allies. The brother read about France, how they were losing out. So how long can they keep losing out before they turn around and say, you know what, man, we're gonna have to pick a side here. Russia's on one side, America's on the other side. You got Russia with BRICS, Saudi Arabia is looking to join in them and all that. So what we're gonna do? Eventually, it's gonna come a point where the buttons are gonna get pushed.
Can yeah. I mean, it's a good point you made as well. But with America, it's all about money, right? But there's gonna come a point they think that you can just buy everything off, buy off problems, buy off problems, buy off problems. But as was broken down, it's like whatever it is, there's gonna come a point where the nation's gonna be like, look, man, F your money. Right. And to be fair, you have a lot of nations already starting to go down that route where it's like, look, man, we don't want your media. All right, cool. We lose out. Oh, boo hoo. Right. At least our children ain't being, mentally corrupted. Right. There's already that sentiment of, we don't really like even food. Right. The amount of food America makes. I remember my boss brought in some snacks from the States. The boss just came back. Bro, no one in the office ate them. People looked at them and was like, "Nah, we good."
Standard.
Hey, bro. When I was working, that security job, yeah. The pilots, they were bringing back American food, and they bringing back this chocolate cake, right? And all my colleagues were saying, "Hey, you gotta try this chocolate cake from America. You gotta try this chocolate cake." So one day I tried it, yeah. Man, I took one bite and I couldn't even finish it. I said, man, this shit is way too sugary. I'm not used to that. I ain't used to it, man. That GMO. I just had to put that in a bin, man.
Yeah, but you even got even economically, don't you even have certain nations, they're moving away from the reliance on the US dollar?
Yep.
That's why they come up with the BRICS unit.
Yep.
You got the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and then they got more allies as well and it seems to be growing. And it's the BRICS unit. If I have a quick little information on it, it says international group the BRICS makes bold move to change dominance of US currency, leaving the dollar behind. The BRICS nations have unveiled a working prototype of a gold-backed digital currency, the unit, as a part of their effort to reduce reliance on the US dollar. right? So they, and they're saying it's backed by gold. And the scriptures speak about, gold, silver, and cattle being true, like true wealth, basically.
Right.
The scriptures speak about it. Our forefather Abraham was rich in cattle and silver and gold. Gold and silver has always stood the test of time when it comes to being wealthy. This whole dollar, being reliant on the dollar is becoming a thing of, people are starting to realize that the dollar is just nothing but an illusion, a fiat currency, right? The word fiat just means let it be so. You know what I mean? It doesn't really exist. It only, has weight depending on the collective belief in it. You know what I mean? They've basically judged up the people, the masses of the
That's right.
people,
Mm-hmm.
to make you believe that it holds weight, but it really doesn't. It's just a piece of printed material.
That's right. Can I grab this for you up? Because I knew that because you said that they're looking to back this new BRICS currency with gold, and I know that China's been buying up gold and
Oh
silver,
yeah.
but Spirit has a whereby you got a load of articles from 2 and 3 days ago on the subject, right? China's gold buying spree, right? What does it say? China bought. I mean, this bit says 150 tons, whereas this says 15 tons. But basically, they're just buying up all the gold, man.
Yeah.
Right? Goldman Sachs picks up on China's secret gold reserve expansion. China's gold imports jumped 89% in first half. It's like, wow.
So we can't be making it up.
Hmm.
These articles that you can call it fake news all you want, but hey, the facts and the figures are there. The reliance on the U.S. dollar, American hegemony is coming to an end, and America actually means bitter.
Hmm.
So a lot of people are finding out that
Yeah.
America just pushes nothing but bitterness, man.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? And even you're talking about snubbing their allies. Didn't Trump snub the UK troops? Following the September 11 attacks. He
Hmm.
said that I got an article here. This is from the courthousenews.com. It says London, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer Friday denounced as insulting Donald Trump's claim that British troops avoided the front line in Afghanistan. It says in an interview with Fox News aired on Thursday, Trump appeared unaware that 457 British soldiers were among NATO troops who died during the conflict in the South Asian country following September 11 attacks on the US. They'll say that they sent some troops to Afghanistan, Trump told the US outlet, referring to NATO allies. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines. So he's basically, look, man, this guy's got no filter.
Nope.
So so you're supposed to be a patriotic, British patriotic, you know? But then you're on the far fault for this country, Afghanistan. I'll put in. But guess what? They got shows out there. Born on the 4th of July, man, with Tom Cruise. They showed you
That's
that,
it.
bro. You can go and fight for your country, be as patriotic as you want. They don't give a damn about you, man.
They
Nope.
don't give a
You just,
damn.
you give your blood for your country. You go ahead and
Yeah,
do that. They don't give a damn about you, bro.
that's it.
You
That's
know?
it. Hey, do you remember the geezer that called? I don't know if I think it was shared in the chat. The guy that called into LBC after this, and he was all crying on the phone. And then James O'Bree's like, "Let it out, mate. Let it out. It's okay. Thank you for your service."
Oh man.
Yeah, because the guy was like, he lost like I think in a squadron, he lost like 5 of his mates. I think his cousin died and everything like that. Man was hurt, but was crying all on the phone.
Yeah, man. Yep. And there's gonna be a lot more people hurt. There's gonna be drafts.
Mm-hmm.
Men are gonna be getting drafted. Women are gonna be getting drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Sent over there to the so-called Middle East, man. The great meat grinder of the Most High, and that's what all of this division is building up to. Ultimately, America's demise. Which is we welcome that. Because
Yeah,
it's all
can
in
I
the
grab that
spirit
for you?
of prophecy. Go ahead, bro.
So this is I was talking about a lot of deaths. This is Second Ezra 16:33 from 33. The virgin shall mourn having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn having no helpers. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine.
So we ain't lying, man. That's all biblical prophecy, man. There's gonna be a draft. You know, tough. All these strong, independent women. That feminism is gonna be a thing of the fucking past, man. You women are gonna be getting caught up. You know what I'm saying? Put in trucks, like Handmaid's Tale, man. You're gonna be getting captured, man. You know, and the prettier you are, boy, it's gonna be like Book of Eli. Stay on the path. You know, you just gonna be getting grabbed up, man. See,
Right.
you got a fat ass, boy. The fatter the ass, boy. Boy, they're
The
gonna
bigger
rock
the
your world.
problems.
It's gonna be a problem, boy. You know? Oh, she's so pretty, you know? Or the prettier you are, you're gonna have women trying to dress like men in that time,
Mm,
you know, because they don't want to get caught by, you know, by them soldiers and that. And it's gonna be crazy, man.
that's it.
I got something. This is Jeremiah. I was thinking about the comment you made about MAGA 2028. This is Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 7. Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. You know, and that Americanization, it's looking like it's not really working out, man. It's not working out for these nations, okay? Because the wine is talking about the philosophies, right?
Mm,
It says Babylon, and you got that precept in Revelation 18 where they're in bed with America doing these business deals, man. Okay. It says Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon because that's what make America great again. That's what that slogan is, right? You know, going back to that Jim Crow, going back to that power that they had during World War II. Pretty much, they've been going down since the 70s. Pretty much before the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, up. You gonna say something?
I was gonna say that, you know, because you mentioned about that wine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you read about that wine. That wine is talking about Americanization, man. That's basically Westernization.
That's right.
You know, and you had something. Even the Iranians, man, they had something. Um, they had something called the White Revolution. You know, in 1963, and it was adopted by a guy. You know, who's the Shah, which Shah to them, I think they in Pashtun it means king. You know, which ultimately, you know, when we go back to the Hebrew, Shah, it means prince. All right, but Shah Muhammad Reza Pahlavi, you know, he led their country through something. He was a puppet leader, by the way, and he led their country through something called the White Revolution. It says in 1963, and it says, why do what people ask, what was Iran like before the White Revolution? It says for almost 40 years, Iran was ruled by the Shah, who led the country through a series of sweeping changes. The Shah pushed the country to adopt Western orientated secular modernization in the decades before the Islamic Revolution of 1979 under the Shah's rule. Iran's economy and educational opportunities expanded. And that's that westernization, man. You know, they introduced women being able to vote. You know, women were wearing short skirts. It's pretty much that's that white revolution. That's that westernization. You know,
Yeah.
that's why you had to have the Khomeinis and the supreme leaders. They introduced a new system. You know, which was pretty much anti-coupable, like a coup d'état. You know, to pretty much, you know, where Esau was destabilize a region, you know, I don't know, pay off some fucking military guys and that and whatever, and have the masses of the people overthrow someone that was really trying to push away from Western ideals.
mm,
You know what I mean? But when the supreme leader came into power, you know, Khamenei, you know, pretty much he set up an illusion of democracy, you know, but it was really controlled by his inner people. Like, and you had religious leaders which would block the people at the bottom that would vote. He actually had his own, you know, army. You got the Islam Revolutionary Guard,
IRGC, yeah.
the IRGC. He set that up. You got the Al Quds, which they go and spread their message even further. You know, you take out one supreme leader, the 100 more spring up in their place. He
Mhm.
pretty much done away with all of that, man. And this is why, you know, Iran has become pretty much impenetrable in this day and age, because they've actually set up a system where you can't just employ a bunch of fucking angry guys burning flags through the streets of
Mm,
Iran anymore, and then you just have a puppet leader. They've actually done away with that. They got a whole new system set up, and this is why, you know, that's how you know it's biblical prophecy, because the scriptures speak about them Carmanians, man, raging in wrath. They're not bowing down anymore. You
Yeah,
know?
you can't economic hitman them, you know.
Exactly, bro.
File style, you know.
That's right.
I had one more verse. It says, "We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed." So America ain't going to be made great again.
that's
Okay.
right.
and part of it not being made great again is his own allies are going to nuke it. Forsake her and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. You know, so America's going to be made that great example, all right, on the earth, man. You know, and these different nations are going to be looking at it, like the brother mentioned earlier. I think that was Revelation 18 you quoted, about the ships that are far off. You know, America's just a big cash cow, man. All right, gotten too big for its boots in a world that's ever changing, and it's got an opposition. Hey, Ezekiel 38, the Lord has, you know, put hooks in the jaws of Russia, man. You know, there's opposition going on. And the brother was going into, you know, in detail with the BRICS. So it's only a matter of time before basically it's payday, you know, when these different nations are going to come against America, you know. Yeah, man. So if you got any last few precepts?
I got one. Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 14. It says, behold, it says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, the Lord Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord, and this is the thing, man, I can't remember who said it, but you know, you mean to tell me that the Lord, he didn't fuck with what the Egyptians, with the ancient Egyptians were doing, you know, and in response to that, you know, he saved the nation of Israel, right? So what do you think he's going to do in this time? What do you think he's going to do to the modern day Egyptians, man? And they're doing worse. You know, he didn't fuck with the captivity of the Israelites in ancient Egypt. So what do you think now he's had a change of heart? He's fucking with this captivity? Come on, man. These guys they're done, bro. That's why they have the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. You know, when you read Isaiah 19, the scriptures speak about the Lord shall ride into Egypt upon a swift cloud.
Right.
You know, so it's going to be swift how the Lord takes this guy out. It's only going to take the Lord 1 hour to destroy America, as outlined in Revelation 18, right? It says, but the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. You know, so that's going to be a new high holy day, you know, which we're going to pretty much celebrate the destruction of America, man. Modern day Egypt, you know, which is going to be a beautiful thing. And what else proves that America is Egypt is Revelation 11 and 8. The dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. You know? So they push nothing but sodomy, and, you know, they have the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. That says it all, man. You know that America is the modern day Egypt. You know that the modern day Pharaoh, you know, are these Edomites. That's why the scriptures speak about trusting, you know, warns against trusting in the shadow of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got it, bro.
Yeah, that's beautiful, bro. Did you have anything else, Raza, you wanted to read?
No, nothing.
Hey, you know, so Lord willing, this is an edifying lesson in the spirit and power behind Bashmi Oshai, Basham Kakadash. The message ultimately, man, is that prophecy is going to be fulfilled, you know. So America is going to be nuked. America is going to be taken down, you know. So again, we'll give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Basham Kakadash, and double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the Lord's elect, man.
Shalom.
Shalom.